Hi everyone and welcome in our 12th month talk. This week we're gonna talk about what is the biggest load clutter in your life. So that's a big hi everyone. Let me just wait a little bit. There is our co-host Dr. Varisa Perlman. Let me put her in a call. Right now. Let's invite her. Hi,
Hi,
Varisa.
how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us for our 12th episode of Mom Talk. So today that will be only two mom. Cecile is not here because she has a mom problem. She's taking care of our daughters, of her daughter. So it will be
Yes.
only me and you today. So
Sounds fun.
yeah, so I was like saying hi to everybody. There is a lot of people that joining us, so that's very nice. Hello everyone. We are very happy that you join us for this call. And today we're gonna address a big subject, which is not always the first one that come in your mind when you are about to become parent or in parents' life. It's what is the load or the clutter that you have in your life. So it can be either uh, gear like physical thing, toys, gear that you get when you have a baby, clothes. It can be also coming from people because you're gonna get visit from people when you have a baby, unsolicited advice also that's a big load in your mental parents health. And yeah, it could be logistic, could be a lot of things for different persons.
Yeah.
So we can start with you, Dr. Perlman. What was your current situation?
So I think that, I love the fact that when we get together and discuss different topics, right?
Yes.
And when we first talked about it, we talked a lot about the idea of clutter in terms of like emotional clutter, because I think that that's actually what we think about
Yeah.
when we talk about what weighs us down, oftentimes as parents. But that's kind of a vague idea. But I kind of loving this topic right now because we are in spring. And I actually had someone that was talking to me about how, they are going through, I guess, what we would call spring cleaning. Hard to say like when you're in Miami, right? Because you're like spring, summer, it all looks the same. But I think that I thought about it for a while and I'm like, why is spring? Why is spring the season where people are like, boy, I feel like I can't breathe. I'm going to talk about the physical first, just because I
Yes.
feel like it's easier to kind of hold on to right now. So, in the different seasons, we have the summer. Well, okay, let's do this. We start with the fall, right? Because I feel like anybody who's had kids, whether you like it or not, your life starts to rotate around your kid's school schedule, right? So
Totally. Yeah,
when you
that's a
think of
thing.
your memories, your activities, your day to day, whether you like it or not, it is going to be dictated
Yes.
by your kid's schedule. So, just for a little check, 12 years, maybe 15 years of your life, your schedule is hijacked by these people, right? These things created, right? So, fall is so full, right? Fall is about new school clothing, new school things, new school classes, a lot of acquiring,
Yeah.
right? New habits, new routines, new activities, right? So everything is about kind of like bringing everything into your schedule and kind of, not really like discerning what's feeling crowded, right?
Yeah.
You're just in the, like, I'm just trying to like get through the day
Yeah.
and see what seems to be fun, but you're just not in the reflective point, right? And then you go into like, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff at once.
Yeah, at this period, your life is more like, a checklist of things that you have to do one after another.
Yeah.
And sometimes, plus, if it's something that is new, as you said, starting a new school, like finding the uniform. It's not a big thing, but it's just like a load on your mental load that you already have. So you have to add new thing and be on top of different things. So yeah, that's
right.
that's a big reason.
And everywhere you look, there's just kid stuff, right? That just like
Yeah.
there's a backpack, there's their thing, there's a permission form, there's all these different things that are really, like, frankly, like cluttering up your world, right? Really.
Yeah.
And then you go into the holidays. I always would find patients, you know, we would start with, you know, the fall, and they would start with school, and then the illnesses would start, right? So like between single holidays. So like September, you know, the Jewish holidays start going. You see a lot of people getting sick. October, Halloween, enough said, right?
Yeah. There is always something to keep your to-do list like full.
You know,
Exactly.
and then, like, you know, wearing the different, you know, costumes, you know, in weird weather, running around. It's just Halloween, right? And I mean, frankly, like, there's a lot of candy around, right? So here you are, you know, you're like, oh, I'm going to be good. I'm only going to eat 2 pieces of candy today, where you don't, like, normally don't eat candy at all, right? There's candy everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Then we go to Thanksgiving, all right, you know, again, and I don't say that you shouldn't see people. You should obviously see people in your life, right? But Thanksgiving is just kind of a lot, right? It's just a lot of food, a lot of just like going to people's houses, and then you go into the Hanukkahs, the Christmases, and you're just like, there's crap all over your apartment.
Yes.
Like you have just been accumulating stuff this whole period of time.
Yes.
And then we hit January and we hit a new year, and people are like, it's a resolution time, right? It's a resolution, but you're not thinking declutter, right? Because you're like, I'm just trying to recover from what that was. That last 5 to 6 months of just like probably incessant illness, right? Like
Exactly.
where the routine is barely like catching, you know, you're just getting into a good pattern. So you're just kind of taking a breath up, right? By February.
But don't breathe too much, because the flu is around here for January. The flu will come for sure.
If it ain't the first time around.
Because the kids are exhausting by the holidays, because it's 2 weeks of vacation. So that means not really vacation for you. And the kids are so excited, and they are very tired, because the holiday vacation are not like a vacation that you rest. That's a false idea. Kids get too excited, they eat crap, and after they go back to school, you have the back to school illness.
Yes.
That comes with it.
I like to call it the second round of flu. So like if the flu didn't pull you the first time, they still have February. You know, February and March is still fair game.
Try to survive.
Fair game, because, you know, you're trying to pull yourself back into it. And somewhere around March, April, and this is just when the weather, you know, kind of gets a little bit lighter, right? You're kind of drifting into a little bit of, now I'm in New York, so now I'm back into the seasons. But
Season, yeah.
right, even Miami, you know, you start to kind of, I guess are we like pre and post Art Basel? Is that how we like do it? But anyways, it's post Art Basel. But you know, it's that kind of thing where we started to come up for air, right? We're like, oh wow, like wow, and you look up and you realize the school year is almost over. Like you literally have 2 or 3 months, and then your school year is almost over. You've now survived the illnesses. You've survived the vacations, because you're absolutely right. Vacations are not a restful period for any working parent.
No.
Vacations are just, where the hell do I put my kid? Like, who the hell is going to take care of it?
Exactly. It's either a mental load to find a camp or a solution to keep them like entertained, or you have to take the vacation and you probably will stay at home and you have to keep them entertained, because school and daycare, they keep, like, you know, the level very high. Doing million things with your kids, and when they are home, they are just bored. And you are like the bored mom. You're like, yeah, sorry, but boring mom.
My mom was old school, and being a pediatrician, she's like, okay, you're coming to work. And at one point, she shoved 3 kids and 2 dogs into one exam room for the entire day. And we were, this has to be a form of torture. Like this is like has to be illegal in some country to do this, right? And so it became a situation where, you know, vacation was just not a restful period by any
Exactly.
means. So yeah, so you find all of that, you come to the spring and you look up and you realize that your home and your head is just cluttered. Whether it be just all these activities now that you signed up for, that you're doing, that you're running around with, you know, trying to like socialize, this play date, that play date, right? All these things are working. Your house is filled with all kinds of crap that you probably don't need by any means. And that's where people start getting the itch. So even if you live in Miami, even if, you know, anywhere you live, you start getting that itch to declutter.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a really, really good talk because honestly, it doesn't have to go that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be something that you only do at the end of the year because, you know, it's something that we should try to do in little pieces all throughout the year.
Yes.
Don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, to remove some load here and there to like lighter your head and your, yeah, it's a good idea.
Right. And the question is that when do you ever feel that way? Like, how do you do it so that little bits kind of work? It's interesting because let's take something as simple as the toys, right? Yeah. So, you know, there are some people that will say like, have like a big box of toys that you just put in storage. And then you have the toys that the kids play with. And like every couple months, you just go back and exchange the box. And it's like you bought them a new box of toys.
Yes.
Okay. So that sounds kind of weird, but the kids are very simple. The kids actually don't need all these new toys as much as you think. And in many ways, you know, the newness of anything, even if it's something simple, is authentic enough for them that they actually play with it. But it's being very deliberate about what is in your space that you share together, right? That you share together. And you know, clothing, at least for adults. So when you look into your closet, if you look into your closet and your closet is busting at the seams, right? It means that you really can't like see. Half of your clothing is like pushed behind something else.
Yeah, yeah.
And what ends up happening is that you end up only wearing half of your wardrobe. And the rule should be if you haven't worn it in the last 6 months, then
You don't
start
have it.
worn.
Yeah, you
And
don't have it. And every time in the morning you try to find out what you're gonna wear, it's like just million things that you have to analyze to say at the end I'm gonna wear the same thing as I always wear.
right,
So that's totally unhelpful, yeah.
right. I'm going to kind of push that a little bit further. You know, when it comes to like friendships and people that you see on a social basis, whether it be with your kids or even on your own, you know, it sounds strange, but like less is more sometimes, you know, like if you have people around you that are really consuming all of your energy, right? They're just kind of consuming your energy, but you're not really getting back from them. You know, they're taking, but they're not really giving. You know what? You'd be surprised, you know, like maybe see them a little bit less and then bring in the people who actually really do feed your space. Because when those people consume your energy, they take your time. The same way that that red shirt that always seems to appear at the top of the pile takes up all your energy and kind of like takes all your attention when really that cute skirt in the back never gets any sunlight.
Yeah, true.
Well, you wouldn't know that if you didn't kind of evaluate what's in your space, you know? And so, you know, one of the ways that minimalist parenting, to me, what does it mean to me? And it's, again, we're talking about possessions because I think it's sometimes easier to start that way and then we kind of emotional. But one of the ways that I think that we have kind of skewed our lifestyle for our children is that we just schedule a lot. We schedule a lot for them. We schedule a lot for us, you know. I read something and kind of tell me what you think about this, that in Europe, there isn't so much of that kind of like activity hopping after school, that a lot of parents will take the kids to the market or take them to the grocery store or take them onto like errands with them as their activity.
Yeah.
But
They're more like you follow your parents whenever
yeah,
they need to.
tell me what you think about that, or your kind of memories of that at all, like being from France.
Yeah. Unless the like the sport activity, but it's barely twice a week. When you are very young, you don't exercise that much, so it's twice a week. And other than that, yes, you follow your parents when whatever they have to do, if it's grocery or go to the pharmacy or like visit your grandparents,
Yeah.
friend, you just you just how where your parents are. So yeah.
Do you think it's like that now?
I've not been friends for a long time, but I think it's still pretty
Yeah.
close. Yeah, it's
Right.
very different from from here in the United States, where the activities first start very early, and so that means like almost you have to quit your job like early on to drive your kids to the activity. And
Yeah.
here it's feel like you need to do a lot of it, like it's and from a very young age, like gymnastic, soccer, like it's a lot of things that even daycare provides. And it seems like a little bit overwhelming, because like my son is 18 months. How could he play soccer? Like, but that's something that is available in the daycare. Seriously, so I'm like, okay, but he's 18 months, so I just have time.
Yeah.
Like, the ball is bigger than him, so I don't see the point, So yeah.
Over the walking thing, I'm not exactly sure how the running and kicking the ball at the same time is supposed to work out.
Exactly, and I think when they are very young, it's more like trying new thing and like let them
Right.
see some different thing for them to try and see what they want to do, because it's not like easy to decide for them. And you have to like and you have to pay like the full subscription, and after 3 they would say, I don't like it, I don't want to go anymore. So yeah, that's for me the activity thing, it's a thing here, because there is a lot of choice. And maybe in France there is less choice also, so you may go where your sister or your friends go, and it's not that much of opportunity. Here you can do cooking lesson, you can do music, you can do soccer, gymnastics, cheerleading, like it's a board game club. It's kind of a lot. So
Yeah, I think that I came from a family of like two working parents, so a lot of after school stuff actually just wasn't an option, because they're just gotta get home. Like honestly, they're like, we don't even they had somehow they would arrange for us to get home, and it's like, once you're home, we're not doing multiple trips of something. Maybe I had a grandfather who lived with us for a while, and that was our transportation. We didn't have Uber then, so like and so it became a situation where it was just the way it was. It was a necessity, and I would spend a lot of time kind of like wandering in my house or wandering outside. And I have very like distinct memories of just laying on grass,
yeah,
looking up at the sky and watching the clouds go by. And I never felt like I was disadvantaged. Like it was more of a situation of like, my parents were like, listen, you've got to just figure out ways to kind of entertain yourself, right?
yes,
And especially when my mom would leave us in the exam room for hours, like we figure out ways to entertain ourselves,
exactly,
and play cops and robbers. But they were very like, it's not as if like I didn't gain an experience. When you go with your parents to go to the pharmacist, or you go with your parents to like pick up the groceries, or you're learning a lot.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
And we've actually really devalued a lot of those kind of like life lessons of like community and just being around other people, and responsibility, and like
Yeah,
cooking, knowing where the food comes from, and it just a lot of places that without in the best interest of making sure that we gave experiences to our kids,
yeah,
we completely cut out experiences that existed
yeah.
already.
Yeah, I have a souvenir of me, like when my mom asked me, she gave me like money, and she asked me to go to the bakery store and grab the bread
Right.
And the first time I was like so scared to ask, but I knew how to do it because I have seen her like doing million times. But the first time that you have to go, it's kind of like a responsibility. So,
Right.
and that was nice. You're right. Now you are, yeah, telling that it's a nice souvenir that I have, and I'm not shy, and I think it is because from the very beginning I was on my own, and I was like, confident enough to go to grab that bread, and I was super proud to go back to the car and say, yeah, I did it. Oh yes, that's
You know,
nice.
that goes along the theme of this idea of like less is more, when
Yeah.
you opportunities for your kids to kind of get those little bits of confidence, those little nuggets of confidence over time, they accumulate. It's like being an investment bank, and it's back on their list of things that they can do, right?
Yes.
And so what we have sometimes in our attempts to kind of create these very kind of fixed experiences
Yeah.
is that we're really kind of undercutting serendipity, kind of like the kind of random experiences that can only come from just having an open schedule.
Exactly. Like it's life lesson. Like
Yeah,
you learn something that is
yeah,
actually like useful.
yes. I mean, even learning, it sounds, not that I'm saying that kids these days can't talk to people, but they kind of have a little bit of anxiety with just basic socialization. The idea of like, I want, go up there and ask them if, this meat is in, can you go and talk to this person? These are little tasks that actually build those skills. It's a
Yes.
skill set. Not something that everyone is born with. So we have a lot of kids now, and you're saying, but what are they don't really even need it. They can just order stuff on the
Yeah.
phone. But
Yeah.
really be able to talk to people is something that is really essential, and especially to strangers. So,
Yeah.
here we are kind of just taking pieces of what you're telling me that you did with your mom, but that's like one or two activities that we've already forgotten because we thought that we
Yeah.
needed to be in ballet, we need to be in Spanish, we need to be in hockey, at the age of 3. Like, and it's that kind
Yeah.
of thing. We're like, I don't know. I don't really know, if we need that. There's something pretty awesome about a pickup game. There's something pretty awesome about having nothing planned and getting kind of bored and being like, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to try to do? Some
Yeah.
kids get overscheduled like that at a very young age. What they like to do is kind of like they
Yeah.
don't really know how to determine that.
And I think that maybe they will lost like the imagination also, because when you get bored, you have to make something for you. Like you have to make up with an idea to get like not bored.
Right?
Yeah.
Got to
Yeah.
be creativity of that. So one of the things that they say is one of the great markers for kind of success is actually self-initiated learning,
Okay.
right? So the idea is that you initiated that learning experience, but that doesn't really exist in a space where every moment is scheduled from the
Schedule.
minute
Yeah.
school. And I think that's the part that even like recess is kind of a frustrating time because you don't have anything that's really set. They literally open the door to the yard and you run around, right?
Yeah.
But when you figure out what you like to do, whether it be look at the worms or go on to go to the bars or run around, play football with, all the people, right? You end up realizing that it was an incredible, even though it was difficult maybe for some kids, actually a really important time
Yeah.
for them to kind of figure out how to navigate that
Yeah.
openness. But most of
Yes.
the times now we don't even have recess anymore, right? We don't even have that. So we're taking away these like moments which can be really formative in the way that their brain and their psyche deals with initiation of interest, like that
Yeah.
initiation. Oh, and
In daycare in France, because I used to I used to work in that field in France
yeah,
in hospital and daycare. They For the kids even very young, we used to in like the day let them have that was maybe once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Let them play on their own. like there was no plan or guided activities. We just let them on the section and do whatever they
Yes.
want. So
Yes.
and I think they have to fill this time with only what they want to do. So either it's read a book, but by themselves, nobody will read the book for them. So that they just turn the page and or play with the doll, or so that it's interesting that you say it down now, because I don't know if in daycare in the US that's the same approach. My son is in daycare, but he's coming home with so much, paper and activity that I'm not sure they have, like, maybe when they are outside, but it's already an activity. Like you're outside,
We're all
so you do what.
here, we're all going to go over there. And there is something good about learning to kind of go with the group. But I think that when I kind of like try to close my eyes and figure out what minimalist parenting means to me, there is this drift where, I feel that we have kind of lost that space, and so what that translates to for parents is the idea of having time that you literally schedule nothing. And I know it's schedule, and everyone's like, schedule, but schedule nothing. So if you have activities on the weekend, the morning of Saturday, nothing for the afternoon on Sunday. Okay. On Saturday, then nothing on Sunday. Like, you have to make it deliberate. There is this concept of masking and unmasking, and this idea of like when kids are at school, they're really busy. They're actually like spending the whole day trying to understand like what everyone is saying, what rules they have to follow, who is nice, how to act around them. We spend that day for work doing that. And
Exactly.
then come home, we need time where it's blank, right? But if they come home and there's like, then we have to go to this and get more to class and then more rules and more, it just never gives anybody a chance to unmask.
Yeah, that's true.
And so for parents, for people, it's not that fun to drive your kids from ballet and then get them, right? Pick them up, get all their stuff together, right? I'm getting like a flashback that it's about to
You're more like a bus driver or a taxi or a Uber.
Yeah. I'm getting a flashback because you gotta make sure that the bag, you would take them to swimming, right? You would make sure you have all the swim stuff in there, right? All the gear, right? And we were living in Michigan and we were taking some swim classes in the cold, right? So you get there, you get them to the swimsuit, they sit down, they go into the swimming, right? You're sitting there, you're just kind of looking around like, okay, what am I gonna do? They come out, they have to take a little bath shower there, right? You get them dressed, right? You get them dressed to what they need to get to. You come out in the cold, right? You make sure that they're not, this is not relaxing.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I would add that every like activities has a WhatsApp group that come with it, and you have tons of text message that you have to get on top of it to be sure that you don't forget like the red shirt for Wednesday or whatever they need. So it just adds to your plate of always thinking about something.
Just reveal, how old are your kids?
It's 18 months and 5 years old.
Yeah, so I mean, they're obviously young, but yet already really stressful.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
already super stressful.
Yeah. The WhatsApp group is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You leave your phone for 20 minutes and you have 18 notifications on whatever group of things, and like, oh wow.
Right? So I'm not saying don't do any of these activities, but just be curated. Like, just be really clear as to like what's something that serves you and something that serves the kid, that they actually enjoy it, and but schedule time that there's just no activity, right? That they just kind of like let their mind wander, let their body wander, let you wander a little bit, because you need time to unmask too. And I think this is the part where, yes, we can talk about possessions, because I think possessions kind of help us see it physically. But it's, to me, if you really talk about where I feel like we're cluttered in our time. Our time is so cluttered, and so if you have a situation where like you just barely make it to spring, like
Yes.
crawling to spring. You're like, what is that? Because you just have to realize that it's not something that should only be done once a year, right?
Yeah.
Go in there in the fall and you're signing up for those activities. Like, just be careful.
Yeah. Just need to
You know?
be mindful on how it's gonna fill your space, like how it's gonna fill your time and your kids' time, because it's gonna fill their days, but it's gonna fill yours also. So just be mindful when you think about doing an activity or sign up for a new activity. Just be aware of the time that's gonna
Yes.
represent in your routine, and yeah.
And I would still encourage you to also still value these daily living tasks, right? Learning and going with you to the grocery store and maybe saying hi to someone and doing something and like, how much does this cost? Okay, I'm going to make this dish, so I'm going to we'll talk about cooking as being, you don't really need to take a cooking class. Like, cook at home and have your kids sit there and help chop.
That's a cooking
Yeah,
class.
guess what? Money, right?
Exactly.
Best case scenario, they actually like the
Yeah.
cooking, right? And they,
Yeah.
right? To me, it always helped when my mom would cook, because again, she worked, but she cooked every night. It would always help when she would like, hey, taste this, or like, I'm going to make this taste. When I was able to get taste tests along the way, that definitely kept my interest, and I was like more than sit there and squeeze like 15 more limes, because to. But it was a really, those to me were really formative for me, and I was part of that process. And I think that we've just made things a little bit like too convenient, too packaged, maybe a little too sterile for our kids, when really like learning how to live and like run through your day and like what responsibilities that you have to like communicate with other people
Yeah.
are things that you don't really have a class for. These are things that you actually learn by hanging out with your parents, theoretically, when they're taking you on those errands, right? That they're like living their life and you're watching them live them.
Yeah.
And we missed that piece this generation. We kind of got ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, and as you said, like now a lot of things are online, like you order things online, you have everything on your phone, on your computer, so it's like you don't have a human behind every task that you need to do, like so yeah. It's important to stay connected with humankind.
Well, it's interesting because my kids are older, so they're like 18, 20. They're definitely in that age where we were like, technology was rising, but they weren't from the very beginning. So, I did a lot of errands. I didn't buy all my groceries online, which is nothing, no shade to that, but it's the idea that like they still had to see me physically go to places, and even, the idea of like texting or calling, we grew up at a time where if you wanted to talk to your friend, you had to call their house, perhaps talk to their grandmother, right? Maybe talk to, their cousin, ask if they were there, right?
Yes.
Right? And maybe leave a message. And I mean, all of these pieces, no, they pick up the phone and they just text their friend.
Exactly. Yeah.
So none of awkwardness ever has to be like processed. They never really had to get past that to kind of be able to present that communication skill. And in some ways, again, easier does not make things richer. More is not better. We're really kind of figuring out that balance where, how do we inform ourselves on a primal level about skills that we have taken for granted and experiences that we took for granted, and I think that part that is the reason why something like minimalist parenting has become I would say unvogue, but people are really considering the concept, because I think we've maxed out a lot of things.
Yeah. But you can see a lot of people that talking about burnout in their job, but I'm pretty sure that it's unknown now, but I won't be surprised that we have a burnout in the parenting field also, because
Yes.
It's a lot, like it's your life, their life, and if you have multiple kids, you're just multiplying the thing that you have to do. But
Yes.
you only have 24 hours
Yeah.
in a day. That is not like, you cannot change the time. So yeah, that's
And when you're, I think that we talk about this a lot because it's just something that, you know, is really important, is this idea of being present, right? But it's really hard to be present when you're basically a really good Uber driver and
yeah,
just drive kids from place to place, and you're like, what? Yes, maybe you have conversations,
yeah.
but is that
It,
really what, you know?
it's all to be present also when you have like in mind just your to-do list of the next thing that is coming and the next thing that you need to prepare or be on top of the next thing, and so you are never in the moment, you are preparing the next one. So that's sad because you are missing just what's happening right now. So yeah,
Yes. And,
yeah,
and
that's
I think that we also would, you know, when we're not present, our kids don't really learn to be present themselves.
yeah,
You know, they learn by modeling, you know, so like when we're not really present, they're like, oh, I guess it's not that important. And I mean, we don't need to do that, but we do that when we kind of max out all of our
yeah,
time. We max out all of our belongings, you know, we max out all of our attachments, you know, where we're just kind of maxed out. You know, there isn't
yeah,
room for something to kind of arise authentically and genuinely out of like boredom or out of like an empty space. There
yeah,
is just that empty space that doesn't exist. And so I, you know, when you try to turn your space, your world through for your kids, you have to really start with yourself and
yeah.
honestly, like, well, what is important? Like, how do I spend my time? You know, how do I spend my interest? And I think that a lot of us uh, will understand it better if
Yeah,
we start with our time.
exactly. But because most of the time when people ask you, what do you want for your birthday or thing like that, you're just, first thing that you think is like just a quiet
Yeah,
moment. Just something like I have nothing to do.
yeah,
For me, that's almost the first thing that come in my head, like quiet,
yeah,
peaceful time by myself.
yeah.
Like nothing to do, nothing to prepare, nothing to think, nothing to schedule. Like,
No,
and now I truly understand my mom
yeah,
because when I was teenager or like young woman, when I asked her, what do you want for your birthday? And she kept like saying, you know, I want like in French peace, like that means quiet
yeah.
time, like nothing, just quiet time. And I was like, boring,
Or
sure. And now
uh,
that I'm a mom, I totally understand why she asked that. It's like just nothing, like really nothing. I want nothing to do. I want nothing to prepare. I can truly understand her answer right now.
right?
Yeah,
It's like ringing in your ear. It's exactly the thing, you know. And as a kid, you know, you always think. I mean, honestly, like kids are voracious. The more is better. But I will tell you that my kids, especially actually when they became teenagers, you know, they were so happy when they would come out of their room in the morning, maybe around 11 o'clock. Maybe morning's not really the word to say. Like, you know, on a Saturday, it would be like, "So what are we doing today?" And I'm like, "Nothing. Like I'm cooking, and you know, we're hanging out, and we'll have some dinner that I've been cooking all day." To me, felt very European, felt very French. You know, why I love French.
but yeah,
Right?
it's my daughter. She's the same. She's always needs to know what's gonna come next
Yes.
during the weekend. It's we were talking about that with my husband like last night, and my husband told me that it's ridiculous. Zoe is always he needs
Yeah.
to know what we're gonna do next, which
Right.
most of the time it's nothing because we already
Right.
did the park, we already walk on the boardwalk, I
Yes.
mean we did stuff like not like the big stuff, but she always need to even to have more or knows what's gonna next. But something that is nothing next, like as you
Yes.
said, like we are going to do
Yeah.
nothing, like
And
she's always in the need to know. So we try to work with her and say, okay, you don't need to always have a step ahead. You can just also enjoy to be home and
yes.
like look at your toys, look what you have around, and just see what you can do on your own.
And how
Like,
does she like that? I'm just curious. When you say like
the very beginning, she's just like annoyed and a little bit upset because she has the impression that we are like cutting her for something fun. And after a while that we don't pay attention, that she like just being annoying, she just play with something. She just gave up and she clicked and she play with her brother or whatever, and she can play for hours. But it needs her like a little time to, you know, swallow the thing that there is nothing. You have to do on your own something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that is such a great example of how you move towards that. Is that first you do the unscheduling, but just because a kid wants, first of all, when I go to my parents' house and I'm there for the weekend, my parents, because they come from the generation where like communicating with your kids is not really something you need to do. Yeah. And so I will be like, okay, so what are we doing for dinner? Like, what, you know, and a lot of times, you know, they just tell me, but like, I do need to know, I like to know, right? That being said, you know, you realize how programmed we are because of that, you know, that we always think there's something to do. And I remember every time I would say it in the morning, you know, like, especially because we were really busy, especially they were teenagers and they were getting busier themselves. Yeah. And I would say to them, like, we have nothing scheduled today. Like, yeah, have fun, right? They would look at me like, what? Like, really? And they would just be so, they become very happy. It's almost like they became a kid again, right? Yeah. Where I would like come home and I'd be like, you know, you have to go to like, you know, you have to go to Hebrew school, you have to go to Hebrew school and swimming. I didn't want them to drown. Like, so like basically that's it. But most of the day, like we would come home, drop everything, and literally like they would go downstairs and literally have to drag them up to have dinner, right? So like that was their energy to begin with. And for them to return to that, even as a teenager, and be like, nothing is scheduled, nothing we have to do. But like they ran out, and I would go back in sometimes, give them a taste of food that I was cooking. I love to cook on them because it takes a lot of time, you know, and it just kind of pulls the time. But after a while, like if I told to you, like if you were living in my house, right, and the next morning, right, I was like, Fanny, you don't have to do anything tomorrow, right?
Oh, I like that. I will come tomorrow for sure.
And I mean, you know, my husband, he really was like a kid that, you know, would spend a lot of time just wandering, whether it be outside or he'd ride his bike places. And he made me promise that like each weekend, he's like, just give me a day that like we have nothing scheduled. Just give me, and it doesn't always happen. Sometimes we just get busy, but he's like, just try. Yeah. Or like when we go on vacation, you know, some people, they love the schedule, right? And he's just like, one or two things are a reservation here, a plan here, and he's like, the rest, open it up.
That's good, because you are probably creating some opportunities that will come up, and you will accept it because you have free time. You say, okay, why not? Yes. Otherwise, if you already packed or thing, and this opportunity come, you just can't accept it because you. So, yeah.
Right. And I think that, you know, the reason why we talk about this in terms of the parents so much, again, the kids will learn from you. You know, when you take them on that vacation, and the way you plan that vacation and the way you live your life is going to kind of like simmer and seep into the way that they look at their lives.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that has to start with the parents. You cannot manufacture this perspective. It's something that has to be lived and like really carried out, probably more than anything else that you do for your kids. You know, it is kind of creating a joy.
Exactly.
And to say create joy, right? Like, how do you create joy? You think everyone thinks like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do this. Sometimes doing nothing is joyful.
Exactly. And by creating a lot of things at the end, you know, kids get used to it, and it's always they want more. Like it's more. So at the end, you just escalating the thing, and there is no end of the more.
There is no end to more. And I mean, we see it ourselves. You just completely don't feel satiated. Like you're setting up your kids sometimes for like a life of not feeling satiated. Yes. And there is just, you know, this kind of, you know, primal issue with that. Because in many ways as people, we're just not as limber to be able to adjust adjust to things anymore. Like everything is planned and we feel like we have control, and we try to, especially when it comes to parents, you know, we feel like controlling things is the way to be successful.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, a little bit of chaos, maybe a lot of chaos, right? And a little bit of lack of control where things are kind of serendipitous.
Yeah.
You know, really, to me, brings everybody to a level of joy that you could never have predicted, right? That you would never have predicted. You know, my kids are both in fields that if you would have told me 10 years ago this is what their life would have looked like, I would have been like, you're crazy. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? Like, I don't even know, like, why you're telling me this, you know? But the way that their life was led and the way that their life kind of proceeded and the joy that they found, you know, my son is a jazz trombonist at Juilliard. So what are you talking about? I don't even know what, you know, and he didn't start playing until he was in 6th grade. And it was just because, and you mentioned this earlier, I dropped him off at that camp because his older sibling went to that camp, and I was like, I don't want to drop off a kid at 2 camps. So I love music. Like, I'll pick you up in 2 hours. Like, have fun. Like, it was completely just my selfishness, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, he went through that experience, and I remember he came back once and he asked me. He said, why didn't you put me in music class when I was 3? Like, why didn't you put me? Because all of his friends who were at that level all started when they were 3, you know?
Yeah.
And I, listen, kid, right? Like, I was not in the business of bringing you to do something that you did not want to do. And you never expressed any interest in music. And so I wanted you, if you were going to come to it and we were going to make that commitment, I wanted you to want to make that commitment.
Exactly.
And, you know, I think that stuck. I think it can never ask me again what that was about. But I think that there's something to be said about, like, having time where, you know, they just kind of do their own thing. And, you know, people are so worried about their resume and their, you know, activities. You know, so many colleges now are getting these lists of activities. But you kid, well, you know, what do you think about this? And they're like, I don't know. I just did it because they told me that I should do it.
Yeah.
That's
society that leads you to have all of that thing done to pursue like a career or like a goal that's,
you know, but does it really, right? Does it?
Yeah. And does it need to start at 3? Not sure.
Not
Either.
right.
At 3, you just need to play on your own and be innocent and enjoy your little life while you have plenty of time of doing nothing.
Well, it was a moment for me. It was a little bit of a sad moment for me. You know, I read a lot of journal articles and different things like that. And the American Academy of Pediatrics came out with this initiative to increase playing because they were noticing that kids don't know how to play anymore.
Yeah, that's sad. That's true.
We kind of did that, you know, and that's the part, you know, is, you know, do we know as adults how to play? Like, you know, do we know what to do with free time? Like, what do we do? Do we have a little bit of that own piece of ourselves that's left over? Whatever's left over after raising them, that we cultivate, that we take care of, that like, hey, I actually really like to do this. Do we do that? You know, and I don't know. We could do better with that.
We could do better, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's if you know, if you take anything away from this idea of minimalist parenting, we talk about it as things to do with your children. But I'm going to start with things to kind of look back on your own life and how you lead your life and what you value and what's important to you and how that will translate in the way that you raise your children, because it's all connected. You can't really cut one part to the other.
No, yeah.
But that's the, you know, in France, do you find that, like, I mean, besides the activities and whatnot, you know, I think part of the reason, and again, I'm going to have a romanticized view of France because obviously I'm not from there, but me, I felt that there was so much value. Let's just take something as simple as like eating. It was just, you know, I was on vacation. So, you know, here I was and I was having lunch, which, you know, I don't usually eat out at lunch when I'm working, because when I'm working, I'm sitting in front of my computer in the middle of doing work, right? And I am answering calls while I'm trying to eat something that I don't even know what it is, right? And it's about maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes if I'm lucky, right?
Okay.
But on vacation, so I'm like having lunch out in a restaurant, and I see someone who is French sitting there with their meal and their plate, and they are cutting their food, and they seem to be chewing their food,
Yes.
and they're not on their phone or doing anything else. They're just very present in that moment,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah, that's something we do. Like the meal time is considered like a social time, and you really let your things like on the side, and you enjoy the meal. And for kids also, like French people, maybe a little bit too strict on that side, but we like kids to be sitting on the table with
Yeah,
us, and we like them to wait until everybody is served to
right,
start at the same time to eat. And we usually don't let them to left the table if we are not
right.
done, like everybody is done. So it's the way to like communicate and learn that it's a moment that we share. So from the beginning to the end. So when they are very young, it's difficult for them to stay, still and sit. But
Sure.
when you grew up, it's just like that's an habit, and either you care or don't care about the conversation around the table. You just stay, and at the end, you will probably enjoy the conversation because that's what you used to do since you are very young. So yeah, it's a very different concept from here, because here usually the kids hit before the parents or whatever. But yeah, it's very something we do like different from US.
Well, to me, the reason why I thought of the eating is because it's always good when you try to see like, how do I like minimize my my parenting, right? Like just how does that phrase kind of come up? One of the places or the times that are, consistent, that a time that you spend with your children is actually a mealtime. So
Yeah,
sometimes that's kind of an interesting place to start. And for me, the idea of bringing something to a very primal level. You're eating. Eating is something that your body needs you to do, and to kind of create it to break it down to like just the bare bones of I am sitting here, you are sitting here, and we are talking and we are eating, and that's it.
yeah,
Like there is no bells or
yeah.
whistles.
We share this moment because that's the only moment on the day that you can sit and be present and share what you did on your day, and good news, bad news, or yeah, meal. It's very
And
important. Like yeah,
my husband, my parents are Thai doctors, and my husband's family are are Brooklyn Jewish, and we are very different when you put us on paper, but the one thing that was in common is that all our families ate dinner together every night.
yeah, that's nice.
Is the one thing. And my dad would say, he made sure that we always had dinner together, because he's like, we would say, I would just want to be able to look into your eyes once a day.
Yeah.
It's a very simple ask. It was
Mhm.
just a very simple ask, because the idea was that our days can be very busy and
Yeah,
filled,
you
but if
yeah you just go from one task to another task. You don't really take the time to sit down and like enjoy.
yes, and to
That's true.
right?
That's true.
And
Unless you declutter your time
correct.
and
So
you,
yeah,
as you said, yeah, yeah,
one of those
you
times.
create some free time to just like do nothing and let the opportunity come to whatever present to you at this time. Yeah.
And I think that the thing that's tricky about a mealtime, right, is that there's nothing really like, planned. It's not like you're like, today the conversation will be about this, right?
Yeah.
Today, and people don't love that, right? Because they're like, I like to like, I feel a little bit awkward. I don't,
You,
but
you don't have to perform. You don't have to come with something. Like you just sit and eat, and at least if nobody have anything to say, just eat in a quiet time. So
right?
that it's
Fine.
it's always like a good moment, because quiet time also that you don't have to feel with something to say. It's always like good to have once a day also. So
Right.
yeah, that's good also to not to be like have the obligation to fill that space also. If you just want to eat in a quiet and enjoy the peaceful moments,
It's okay.
also something good to have. Yeah.
You know, we are a country in the United States of very grand statements and very grand gestures. And I have found in my life, as you know, I've been raised in this country, but also having immigrant parents, is that in life, change can only come with like small little adjustments every day.
Yeah.
So if that means that's like 10 minutes of sitting with your 3-year-old because they're just jumping up and trying, you know, like you said, in the French culture, not every kid at 3 years old like is willing and able to like do it immediately,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it is something that grows and it builds with time. So it doesn't have to be perfect first time.
Exactly, but you have to be mindful and teach them from the beginning. And also the most important part is to make the right example. Like you have to sit and stay.
Right.
And when it's difficult for them, you just explain them that that's how we do. So be a little bit more patient. In
Right.
5 minutes, we will let you go, but finish your plate first.
Yes.
And you can ask questions to your kids to just keep this moment a little bit longer and involve them to be like
Yes.
in a conversation, and don't have them to have the impression to just wait until this time is done and I can, you know, do another thing after. So,
Well, I think that if they look at you and you're like on your phone, distracted, jumping up and down, you don't come home, you can't, that does them
it's
that,
not the good example of sharing a moment,
right,
because
right? It's,
yeah,
so I think that, you know, it's with the idea of even just that emptiness where like you don't necessarily say, you don't have to fill things with
yeah,
words, especially teenagers. They don't really always want you to fix everything that they say. So they may say something to you that they're sad about or something that's going on, and we want to fix it. We want to fill that
yeah.
with a cure or something to make it better. And many times they just want you to sit with what they just told you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Really,
they don't need, yeah,
right?
an advice.
It's really hard, but there is value in, again, having that space, whether it be in your time, in your schedule, in your apartment, in your house,
Yeah,
right? Around you. Like less is more.
exactly. And as we said from the beginning, the main topic was declutter your life. So the one that you are pointing today was declutter your time first. And I think that's the major one, because if you declutter your time, you will maybe spend more time home, and that will allow you also to declutter your physical stuff, like
That,
the toy, the clothes, and that's an activity that you can do with your kid, and it's not scheduled or planned, but you also like declutter your house,
yeah.
because kids, they grow up and toys is gonna change interest, so you have to give some, you have to buy
Oh,
new one, you receive from birthday, but you need to declutter. And spending some time at home allow you to do that.
again.
So again, that declutter your time
Right?
first. I would think that one would be the most important one, but
Right?
now we finish this talk, I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, I think I'm smart.
I love it. That's perfect. Wonderful job.
Yeah, that's the most. So for people who just joined us, and thank you for watching us. Today was declutter your life, and the most important one is to find space, like to do not schedule every space of your day. Try to unschedule a part of your weekdays and give you some space to allow opportunity or just peaceful, quiet time, and allow your kids to be bored.
Yes. Boredom is not bad.
Exactly, because uh, more is not good
Yes.
and less is good.
Yes.
So yeah, that's I think we're gonna conclude on that. So declutter your time would be our best advice today, and you will be able to declutter a lot of aspects of your life, because if you have time to think, you will think of,
Yeah.
as you say, people that you don't really have interest, but you have to invest time in.
Yeah.
You will have to declutter your home. So yeah,
Yeah.
best
Goes
advice.
all the way through. Goes all the way through.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching our 12th episode, and see you in 2 weeks for our 13th episode already.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.